Grace and peace. Welcome to Judah's Roar Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative YouTube channel. I am your host, Apostle Cheryl. So before we get started, I'm going to do like I always do and give you a few seconds. Check down here below the video. Make sure you subscribe if you've not done so already, and then click the bell so that you receive a notice every time we upload a new video on Sunday evenings at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, take a few minutes to check out the description box, and it'll give you some pointers on how you can partner with us in our quest to end domestic violence. Thank you for taking a few minutes to look into that. Now, this week's topic is proximity and domestic violence. Proximity and domestic violence. And you may be wondering, what does she mean by that? What does proximity have to do with domestic violence? Well, we're going to take a close look at that in this video. Okay, so proximity, you know how I am about definitions. I like to make sure we're all on the same page. So proximity by definition is the quality or state of being proximate, closeness, adjacency, nearness, immediacy. Proximity is the quality or state of being proximate, the quality or state of closeness, adjacency, nearness, and immediacy. Now, the opposite of proximity is distance or remoteness. All right. Another definition is nearness in place, time, order, occurrence, or relation. Closeness. Again, nearness in place, time, order, occurrence, or relation. Closeness. Now, there's several different types of proximity. When I began to think about this, I thought about all the different ways that proximity plays into domestic violence. All right. And why is this important? Well, it's important so that we can understand that close proximity, generally speaking, in relationship, no matter what kind of relationship it is, close proximity is a factor in creating opportunities for relationship. So proximity, that adjacency, that closeness presents us with opportunities to form relationships, okay? And proximity creates ease of access. So the closer you are in time or in order or in nearness or in occurrence or in relation, right? Going back to the definition that we just shared, the more proximate you are, the greater the access and the greater the opportunity for relationships to form. Okay. Oftentimes, our relationships doesn't even have to be an intimate partner relationship, but oftentimes our relationships are formed based on proximity, right? They're formed with people with whom we share a space, with whom we share an interest, with whom we share a belief, right? And so we tend to build relationships with those things that we have in common as a foundation. For example, maybe you met your best friend or significant other or the person that ultimately went on to abuse you at a social event. Maybe you met them in school. Maybe you met them at a sporting event. Maybe you met them at church, or maybe you met them at work. The point is that there was some commonality that placed you all in proximity to one another. And so this applies to all of our relationships, okay? The context in which we first meet folks informs us of what kind of relationship we think is possible, right? So depending on where we met and how we met and the circumstances under which we met, we make a kind of assessment internally about what kind of relationship this can be. Is this a possible intimate partner? Is this a possible best friend? Is this a possible like sister. You know, there are people who are close to me and they're more like sisters than friends. We are that connected, okay? And so um and then I have male friends who are more like brothers to me than just like friends, you know? So it's they're like family members. And so but we have things in common and there are things that we share with one another. There are interests that we share. There are beliefs that we share. And so I want you to kind of take a look at the relationships that you have with others. And even if you're in an abusive relationship, look at how that started. Okay. So the context in which we first met the people that are close to us, that we form relationships with, informs what kind of relationship we think is possible. Is this a potential lifelong friend? Is this just a friend at work? Is this someone that, you know, I can enjoy their company hanging out with after work? Do we have interests that we share that have nothing to do with the job, other things that we can enjoy together? Do we have a hobby or something, a cause that we are committed to and passionate about, and we share that interest, we share that commitment? Okay. Um, For example, everyone that's on the Line of Judah Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative board has a deep and abiding concern about people and their welfare, and them not living beneath the privilege that God has made available to them. They are passionate about abuse, and they are passionate about justice, and they're all incredibly creative. And so we're all on this board, but we have these things in common. All right. Here's a question. Do you have similar goals in life with the people that you've connected to? Do you have similar core values, you know, similar things that you govern your life by? Okay, we all have things that we just think are flat out wrong, and we have things that we think are really awesome. And those tend to be the things that inform how we live our life and how we make our decisions as we move through life. So, if you found yourself ensnared in an abusive relationship, proximity, even if it's primarily online, and we're going to talk about that, has most likely played a role. There's something that you found in common with this person, or at least you thought you had something in common with this individual. And a relationship came out of that. Okay. Um, Now, let's talk about online stuff for a second. Because in this day and age, many people meet that way, and they meet and they establish like really awesome friendships, or they establish intimate relationships, or they establish relationships and find out that this individual is not who they say they are. They are stalkers or mentally unstable or whatever. Okay. So, why is the online thing so powerful? The online thing is kind of like a science lab. Okay. And the conditions are artificial. The conditions are artificial. And as a matter of fact, you don't even know what the conditions actually are on the other side of this scientific experiment that you're engaging in when you're dealing with folk online. You don't know if that's really a man, if it's really a woman. You don't know if they're really who they say they are. You don't know if they are incarcerated right now and this is their computer time, or if they're home, or if they're working. You really don't know. And so you have to make a decision up front to believe or be cautious about whatever information is being shared with you. If you override those things, and if you override any red flags, then you've opened yourself up emotionally, right? To be victimized if you're dealing with someone who has nefarious plans, you know, for you. So the online thing is powerful because it allows us to create in our own minds whatever image we need to see, whatever image we desire to see. It makes us more susceptible to believing what we are told, unless we're just normally skeptical anyway. Um, and you don't have the benefit of being able to observe body language. So it's all about voice. And so that means now you've got to focus and listen. So they have your undivided attention, you have their undivided attention, and you're pouring into each other, and the foundations are being established. And the tricky thing is, you don't even know if it's a legitimate foundation because you don't know if they are who they say they are. You don't know if they're hiding something. You cannot really see their body language. And even if you could, you have a set time to talk. So, you know, people can pretend for short periods of time. It's when it becomes an extended period of time, it becomes a problem for them. So again, proximity is important. And even if you've met this person, this friend, or whoever online, there's so much that you don't know about them. You've not seen them function and operate in their day-to-day life. You've not experienced them dealing with disappointment. You don't know what that looks like. You don't know how they process it. You don't know if they can hear the word no and be reasonably mature adults about it, or if they're going to go high and to the right because you told them no about something. And so there's a lot that you don't know. There's a lot that we tend to fill in our own minds when we don't know. And it gives us permission to continue on with this relationship. And so oftentimes what happens is when people find out what they're really connected to, they're so intertwined that now it's complicated extricating yourself. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I touched on the whole online thing because so many people are connected that way now. And it's possible to have a close emotional bond with someone and never have occupied the same space with them. It really is possible. There are people that, I incredibly close to that I pray for all the time. They pray for me. We've never even been in the same room. Okay. We've never even been in the same room. So I want you to understand that it's possible for relationships to form sight unseen. Okay. Proximity plays a pivotal role in how we form relationships. Proximity also allows an abuser to continue use of their coercive control tactics. Matter of fact, proximity is key for an abuser in order to be able to keep their little talons, okay, embedded in the victim in order to continue to control and to try to be this puppet master. Proximity is key. And this is why oftentimes victims are subjected to the stalking and the odometer checking and the cyber stalking, them wanting to know your whereabouts all the time, and them timing you when you leave the house and when you come back. And this is all about proximity because they understand that the closer they are to the victim, the more power they can exert over the victim. And not only that, they can make adjustments based on the victim's response to their coercive control tactics. Now, here's something that I think is important for us to talk about. Chances are, if you are trapped in an abusive relationship, chances are that when you met this person, you know, they probably look good, smell good, whatever appeals to you, that's what they presented, right? But I'm pretty sure they didn't say, hey, my name is Ray Ray and I'm going to make your life a living hell. Or, hey, my name is Letitia and you're going to hate you ever met me. And you're going to have a hard time getting rid of me. That's normally not the way they introduce themselves, right? That's normally not the way they introduce themselves. And so it allows them to get a foot in that door. And if a lot of your communication has been on the phone or online or in chat rooms or whatever, then you don't have a baseline for their body language, their response, or anything. There is a scripture in the Bible. It's Amos 3:3. And it says, how can two walk together except they are agreed? Another translation is, can two walk together except they be agreed? And then the New Living Translation says it this way, can two people walk together without agreeing on the direction? So now when you take this into consideration, if I as a victim continue to entertain an abusive relationship, then I am in fact agreeing on the direction. I am agreeing to the abuser's plan. Now, this is not a conscious, okay, I want to be abused and I'm going to just do this and this is my lot in life and this is no. I don't believe any victim desires that. But what I am saying is our continued presence in that relationship is agreement. It is co-signing. And that's the case unless you have a plan to exit. If you don't have a plan to exit, then you are accepting the idea that these cycles of abuse is something that's going to happen, and it's just kind of the way life is, and just the way life goes. And this is how people remain in these relationships for many, 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 many years, because on some level for them at that moment in time, it's easier for them to just kind of roll with it and try to survive it, and then try to gain strength in those few periods of respite that they get in this abusive cycle, than to deal with the stress and the pressure and the danger of trying to extricate themselves or trying to leave. And if you have pets or if you have children, it further complicates that whole entire process. The concerning thing is that over time, the abuse cycle escalates. So the longer you stay, the worse it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets. We've been talking about proximity and what it has to do with domestic violence. Join us next week, and we're going to talk about some other things that have occurred to me regarding proximity and how it manifests in a domestic violence riddled relationship. Financial proximity, physical proximity, emotional proximity. Okay, and we're going to talk about that next week. But I wanted you to be able to begin to think about proximity and the role that it plays in all of our relationships, and how that proximity kind of informs what kind of relationship we think we can have with this other person or these other people. Um, and a reminder that most abusers don't introduce themselves as abusers. They don't. And so we need to really be mindful of that. We've been talking about proximity and domestic violence. I am Apostle Cheryl, CEO and founder of Judah's Roar Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative. When you get a couple of seconds, check out some of our animations on our YouTube channel. You be safe out there. Blessings to you.